And the Lord said, "Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. And yeah, my hairline is a mess. I for the past 6 hours, I have gone out of my bed. I ate some food, listened to some music, texted some friends, one friend, and I didn't know what the hell am I gonna do. Oh, sorry, right, I can't swear, because I'm going to do the Kanye West album review today, and the album title is Jesus is King. So Kanye West, one of the most popular rappers ever, his discography is really rocky. It's full of ups and downs. He started off his discography with The College Dropout, which is indeed a masterpiece. It has a lot of amazing songs that are really well produced, really well sampled. The beats and the instrumentals are so flavorful and full of textures, and the flows are not bad as well. But I just love how there is an emphasis on beats and instrumentals and melodies and harmonies rather than just pure just flow and rhymes. We have albums like Late Registration and the So Graduation until Kanye West decided to take on a more artistic and hipster-esque direction with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is in my opinion my favorite Kanye West album because every single track is vivid, colorful, bright, amazingly produced. There is an emphasis on quality over quantity. And we also have albums like 808s and Heartbreaks, where he makes alternative R&B instead of hip hop, and it's a pretty depressive album, not gonna lie. But after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, we have Yeezus, where he takes on an even more experimental approach, and it kind of ends up as something that's kind of drab and dry, in my opinion, not as colorful or as vivid as Kanye's previous materials. But still, that being said, Yeezus is not a terrible album at all. And then we have The Life of Pablo in the year 2016, which is a living, breathing, ever-changing album. It's huge, it's incredibly ambitious, and when it first came out, it doesn't sound great. It still sounds flawed and rough around the edges, but Kanye West keeps changing it over and over again, re-releasing it on streaming platforms over and over again until he thinks it's okay. So there's that. And then in the year 2018, last year, he decided to produce 5 albums, and 2 of these albums are released under his name. All 5 of these albums are 20-something minutes long, about 7 tracks long. They're pretty short, but they put an emphasis on quality rather than quantity again. And it really works out despite Kanye West's crazy, weird reputation of crazy tweets, of his rants, his endorsement of Trump, and his unhinged interviews. And yeah, the album Yay is a really nice personal album. The album Kids See Ghosts, collaborating with Kid Cudi, is actually surprisingly amazing because of how colorful, dreamy, and surreal the album is. We also have the Pusha T album, which has some amazing, strong beats. We also have the Tiana Taylor album and the Nas album, which are just so, but they're still not that bad. And then he teased towards the album Yandhi, except he never released Yandhi. Instead, he focused on his Sunday services, his gospel choir, and then suddenly decided to, I guess, become a complete Christian, and he decided to release this album, Jesus is King. Again, 27 minutes, except it's 11 tracks long. So some tracks here are really brief and kind of short. And another thing that Jesus is King is different from all Kanye's previous material is that the production is like significantly worse for some reason. It's like Kanye recorded some of his verses on the album on his phone. It's pretty bad. And he's not even like shooting for a lo-fi style. It's just unintentionally bad. I should say the sound quality is bad, but the production itself, the layering of beats and instrumentals, they're not bad at all, actually, because Kanye is one of the best producers of hip-hop out there, dare I say it, but the sound quality of this album is just not quite there. Yeah, so on this album, he still makes hip-hop, he still raps, but he doesn't swear, he doesn't talk about things like, sex and money and all that. And he incorporates hip-hop with gospel and soul even more heavily than on all his previous projects. Here's the thing, while he calls this album a gospel album and he calls this album Christlike, this album is not very Christlike, actually, because instead of actually preaching Christianity or expressing his views on Christianity and how people should also follow him, complaining that people are criticizing him, complaining about his father and other people around him, and also comparing himself to Jesus himself, which is a little egotistical in my opinion. Anyway, the album starts off with Every Hour, which is the only track here that features the full Sunday service choir. The choir sounds amazing. If you have seen those videos on YouTube, they sound fantastic. But no, on this album, they only show up for roughly 2 minutes on the first track, on the intro track, and that's it. They're pretty underutilized in my opinion. And the choir, while I like their performance, they are very hyper energetic and very passionate in their performance, and I like that. But nonetheless, the track Every Hour sounds so brief. It sounds like the track started in the middle of a longer choir performance, and it just ends very abruptly, as if the recorder suddenly broke in the middle of the performance. Anyway, the second track is Selah, which is one of the better tracks on the album. It's a very epic and cinematic track in my opinion. I love the chilly organs, the very epic gospel choir, which just ascends higher and higher and higher. I like Kanye's flow on this track. The instrumentals are very dramatic, and apparently Pusha T is one of the co-writers on the track. That's why some of the rhymes and the lyrics on this track are pretty genius. However, again, on this track, Kanye West kind of compares himself being criticized by haters with Jesus being betrayed and crucified. What? Yeah, it's very ridiculous. It's kind of blasphemous, actually, for Kanye to compare himself to Jesus, who clearly had a way worse treatment. And if you know what happened, when Jesus was being crucified before he died, he said, "God, forgive these people, for that they do not know what they are doing." And in Kanye's case, Kanye doesn't really want to forgive his haters. In fact, from what I've heard on this album, Kanye just wants to give a big middle finger to his haters again. It's still one of the better tracks on the album. Same goes for the next track, Follow God, one of the musically more pleasing tracks on the album. The beat is groovy, the flow is hard, even though it doesn't sound that great quality-wise, and I really like the flow. This track kind of reminds me of the track Yikes off of the track Yay, off of the album Yay. But lyrically, Kanye West, I guess, keeps on complaining about the people around him instead of actually preaching any gospel. So again, it's not very Christ-like, in fact. And then we have the track Closed on Sunday, which has a really dramatic start with the very horrifying choir vocals. The lyrics, man. The lyrics, they are silly. They are dumb. For some reason, they're shockingly silly to a point where I can't take this track seriously. Closed on Sundays, you're my Chick-Fil-A. Hold the selfies, put the gram away. Closed on Sundays, you're my Chick-Fil-A. You are my number one with the lemonade. Yeah, that's... Kanye wrote that. The track isn't really all that well structured either. The very dry beeping synths towards the end of the track doesn't help the track at all. We have the track On God, which has some really nice, bright, energetic keyboards. But then again, the lyrics. When I thought the book of Job was a job, like, he's just making puns out of the Bible now. And also on the same track, he talks about how him overpricing his merch is a kind of virtue, which kind of goes against some of the views on the Bible about how if you value wealth all that much, you can't really go into the kingdom of God, aka heaven. And also the song structure is kind of one note, kind of one-dimensional, and the sound quality of the track sounds really demo-y. Afterwards, we have the track Everything We Need, which is another pretty one-note track that musically isn't all that satisfying or anything. I really like the choir vocals, however, and Ty Dolla $ign gives an amazing vocal performance, but then the fusion of gospel music and trap beats, and the flow is lazy. It's like Cardi B. It's not very good. We have the track Water, which is also not very good. The instrumentals are the worst part about the track. The track tries to be summary and sugar-coated, and it's kinda weird. The vocals on the track feel aimless and directionless, while we get these splashy chords and clunky, clumsy synths that do not match up with the theme or the tone of the track at all. The falsetto on this track feels really monotone, and the lyrics, they are obnoxious, where Kanye West basically goes, Jesus do this, Jesus do that, Jesus give me strength, Jesus give me power, Jesus give me this, Jesus give me that. And again, if you are a Christian or a person who studies religion in general, you know that in the Bible, it is said that if you treat Jesus and God as if he's the seller and you're his customer, this relationship is not very Christ-like. And we have the track God Is, which is also one of the better tracks on the album, in my opinion, even though to me it sounds like overblown karaoke. But still, the vocals are pretty beautiful, where Kanye West basically sings very beautifully and blemishly over some pitched soul gospel choir samples. And musically, it's pretty pleasant, not gonna lie. We have the track Hands On, and it's a pretty drab rap song. The beat is pretty minimalistic and pretty forgettable. I like the glitchy vocals, I like the icy synths, but on this track, lyrically, it's not great at all. Kanye West basically criticizes the people who criticizes him, so Kanye criticizes them back. And we have the track Use This Gospel, which features Clips and Kenny G. Yes, Clips, they're back. The instrumental of the track isn't necessarily great, but I like how minimalist it is, but it later sort of develops into something more complex and more beautiful. It's basically this single keyboard note being played over and over again throughout the entire track, but the instrumentals, it just builds to something really beautiful and really cinematic. We get some warped harmonies performed by Kanye West, which is really nice. The lyrics, they don't feel bitter and personal, they feel general, and we get some really amazing features from Clips, including Pusha T. The saxophone solo towards the end is amazing, and the way the sax solo sort of transitions back to the beat is pretty genius. And then the album ends off with Jesus is Lord. 49 seconds of really beautiful horns. But it just ends off abruptly, and it's just a really unnatural ending to the album, very jarring ending. And also, this track would work better as an intro to the album rather than being the ending to the album, because it sets a really nice tone, except it's the end of the album, so it just sounds kind of weird. Yeah, while I do like some of the musical moments on the album overall still sounds lackluster, it lacks focus, and it's not very Christ-like. Some of the song is poorly structured, the sound quality of some of the recording is pretty terrible, and the lyrics are not great, not good, pretty personal, and not in a good way. So yeah, and also sometimes very silly. My favorite track here is Selah. My least favorite is Water I Am Giving. Kanye West's Jesus is King, a strong 5 out of 10. Yes, originally I was gonna give it a 6, but then I looked into the lyrics and it's bad. So, have you listened to this album from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.